Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from sortofinteresting.com and today you're joining me on board good old Narrowboat Abel's Ark for something slightly different to my normal boat life videos, but they will resume very soon, don't worry. And in this video I basically want to focus on showing you loads of footage and loads of photos from the last decade or so, and some of my thoughts and memories from boat life and before of one particular iconic canal place. And that, my friends, is Aqueduct. But before we get into my own thoughts and memories of the place, let's have a little voiceover section and go through the vital statistics of the place. Right, let's get stuck in. The aqueduct stands at 70 feet tall and 710 feet long, which is an impressive construction considering that it was completed over 200 years ago in 1801. And it's yet another one of Thomas Telford's creations, of which he has many in this area and further afield too. Interestingly, because the aqueduct crosses the River Ceiriog, which in this area marks the border between England and Wales, if you're heading upstream you will enter the aqueduct in England and emerge in Wales. If you're heading downstream you'll enter the aqueduct in Wales and emerge in England. The viaduct nearby stands another 30 feet taller than the aqueduct. Amazingly, in an illustration of how quickly the railway started to take over from the canals, work on the viaduct was started within 50 years of the completion of the aqueduct. So you can probably tell from what you've already seen why this is such an iconic local tourist attraction to this area. Not only have you got the amazing aqueduct, but you've got the viaduct and then the tunnel right next to it. There's two pubs right next to it as well, only a few minutes walk away, which are quite popular. So of course there's plenty of people who go out for a pub meal and then have a wander down the towpath. And that's certainly where my earliest memories as a child come from, going out to the poacher's pocket or the trap with my mum and dad and nan and grandad, and then we'd walk up down the towpath and having that amazing thing. Obviously as a young child, even though I could barely poke my head over the railings of the aqueduct, when you saw just how low it was and how far down it seemed, especially as a child, having that moment of like, oh, and feeling as if you're going to suddenly tumble over the edge spontaneously. And again, you can imagine the excitement of seeing boats going across it, and amazingly sometimes when you get trains to go past as well on the viaduct. And I think, again, not only as a child was it almost a little bit scary, I would say, having the trains go past, like as they roar across, and you've obviously got the noise of them and the fact they're there above you dominating the skyline. Oh, great stuff, honestly. I've got some really great fond memories as a child of going over to like the tunnel there, and you'd be shouting as loud as you could to hear the echo and stuff like that. Again, good times. But really, my proper grown-up and my proper memories of the aqueduct becoming a real standard feature of my life comes probably about a decade or so ago, where not only had I got massively into walking, but also I'd become friends with some people who lived just up the road from the aqueduct at Western Ryn. So the mixture of the canals being a great place to walk, my love of walking, and having friends who I would stop for multiple nights a week at. And I don't know how they felt about that in hindsight, because I literally spent probably 2 nights a week there minimum for years on end. And I'd very often wake up early in the morning and quietly leave the house so that I didn't disturb anybody, and then go off across the aqueduct into Wales and walk maybe 15 to 20 miles, so I might see the aqueduct in the sunrise conditions, go off into the distance, have my walk for hours on end, and then, depending on what time of year it was, come back in the evening to go back up to their house and cross over the aqueduct in the sunset conditions. And my goodness me, we'll talk a little bit more about seeing the aqueduct at all times of day and night in just a second, but just for a note here, what you're seeing on screen is a mixture of footage and stuff from very recently and a load of photos from present day right back to 2009, and it's amazing what memories and what, well, just different excursions with different people I've been on over there. Right, my friends, I'm interrupting myself slightly here because there's no convenient place to put this little video clip into this random section of memories and thoughts. but it's the earliest video of the Aqueduct that I've got on this YouTube channel, and well, I used to try and make short comedy videos, I'll say that much. Right, let's cringe and watch this video. Hello there, I'm Dan Brown from InvertedHourglass.com, and here's a quick tip for those of you who find yourself getting a little bit bored when you're out on your country walks. I find it always helps with the boredom if you fetch one of your pets out for a walk, don't I, Bertie? And that's your tip of the day. Right, let's get off, Bertie. Anyway, I'm going to stop interrupting myself. We don't need to talk about what we all just saw anymore. Let's get back to my normal commentary that I've just interrupted with this clip. Some of the more memorable and interesting things obviously start to happen when you get to my first boat life on Narrowboat Hilly. For anyone who's unfamiliar with my YouTube life story, before Abel's Ark I lived on dry land for 2 years. Before I lived on dry land for 2 years, I lived for 4 years on a very small boat. But of course it was mega exciting because it was my first boat, and I spent my first winter moored up at Chirk Bank, literally about 3 minutes walk away, if that, from the aqueduct itself. So of course it became this literal everyday thing. And it's one of those strange things when you think that you have people who travel from all over the place and people who will come from all over the world on narrowboat holidays, and they'll pass over the aqueduct, and it's this amazing iconic moment from their holiday. And yet for people in the local area, it's literally, to some people, an everyday thing of going for a walk into Chirk, or from Chirk, or walking the dog, or going on a bike ride. And again, you can imagine being moored up just around the corner from it, in the most literal sense. It was an amazing experience. It was absolutely fantastic. And of course, being my first winter on a boat, I had all that excitement of, oh yeah, everything's new and all that. But also, significantly, I had my first ever snowfall on the boat at Chirk Bank. And of course, I'd seen the aqueduct in snow before, and I'd been there many times in the past with very heavy snowfall. But just being there and literally opening the curtains and seeing snow on the ground from your boat home, and then walking around there so you haven't had to walk 6-7 miles from Oswestry to get there in the first place, it was a far more enjoyable experience, I'll say that much. So you can imagine crossing over the aqueduct on the boat for the first time was a wonderful experience, to say the least. It was absolutely awesome. But then getting to the tunnel was terrifying, and I was scraping the paintwork, I was scraping the brickwork of the tunnel. It was a disaster, so we won't dwell on that. But again, once I was on the far side of the aqueduct, that meant that every time I wanted to go to Oswestry to see my friends or family or to go to work, I would have to bike over the aqueduct. And of course, that's one of those things that suddenly makes it an everyday part of your commute. And you just think again, that idea of this iconic place that you're seeing, or you're not seeing, more to the point, as very often I would be passing over so early in the morning, maybe before 7 AM, that it was still dark. And then throughout the years and the seasons, depending on when and where I was moored up, obviously you'd see it in all those different sunrise states of, oh, it's the summer, so it's already pretty bright, or oh, it's the winter, so it's pitch black. And then going forwards from that, coming back in the evening, of course, very often I would be biking, or I'd visit my friends on the way back. So I'd be crossing over the aqueduct any time, maybe between midnight and 1 AM, and again, that's when it starts to get a little bit spooky. And of course, though, I obviously ended up giving up narrowboat life for 2 years, and that didn't mean that I stopped enjoying the canals and stuff. And I was still out and about, and would sometimes still bike out from Oswestry to the aqueduct and beyond, and make it into a little loop or something like that, and then be back in town, and then be at work at 9 o'clock. So I'd still be all over the place and was visiting regularly. And then, of course, I finally bought another boat. Order is restored to the world, and today I happily, this morning, crossed over it on Abel's Ark. My goodness me, what an experience. It was almost a little emotional experience, I'd go that far to say. Anyway, I suppose I better wrap this video up, because I've let this go on way longer than I'd anticipated, so I apologise for that, my friends. Anyway, as always, please do consider checking out my short books if you want to help me out, all about my life afloat. Please do subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out my other videos for literally hundreds of boat life videos from my previous boat, with loads more footage of the Aqueduct, and of course, loads of boat life videos to come on board Narrowboat Abel's Ark. If you're really generous and kind, please consider checking out my Patreon, but no worries, no pressure there. And of course, my friends, until the next time, keep it interesting, keep it boat worthy, have a fantastic day, and of course, my friends, farewell.